Hi, so we are back with our last talk for today, titled Art Direction on a Live Free-to-Play Game by Regina Dubiel. Regina is an art director and content lead at MoviestarPlanet. She holds a master's in production design from the Royal Danish Academy. Regina worked for more than 6 years in movies and moved to games, working with game art for more than 10 years now. So welcome her on stage and give a big hand.
Hello. Did I turn this on? Yes? Okay. Hi, and thank you for the very nice introduction. Yes, as said, my name is Regina, and I'm an art director on a 2D game, a live free-to-play game. And I'm going to talk about my job as art director and content lead. And then after that, like how we work in the art department, what we do, how we do it. And then I will come to like my journey to where I am now from a student. And I'm also hiring manager, so I will finish off with a little bit of like tips for application and getting your first job. But I would like to just start with hearing like a little bit about you. How many of you here are in arts? Few of you? Okay, and the rest, is that game design? Yeah. Okay, and are you all still in school? Are you some of you already out looking for jobs? Still in school, hands up? Okay, most of you. Okay, cool, so I know like who I'm talking to. So I'm working at a Danish company called MoviestarPlanet. We have 3 live games out, 2 2D games and 1 3D game. And I work with the 2 2D games, MoviestarPlanet, and then the sequel, MoviestarPlanet 2. It is games that are out live, and we just release content to them weekly. And we have around 1.1 monthly active users playing, and we are out in 16 different countries. So we need to make sure that everything we do is kind of relevant to both, we are out in Europe and the States, New Zealand, Australia, so all over the world. And as I said, it is a free-to-play game, and it is a social game. I would actually say it's a mix between a social media and a game. It is a dress-up game, and it's content-driven. And that means that the game stays pretty much the same. Sometimes we do new features, but mostly we release content to the game. And we do that with mostly clothes, but I will get into in more detail later what the content is. But we have every week 1 and 2 weekly releases with like 40 to 50 different assets, and that is what the art department do. Yes. So I am then the art director and content lead, so it's my job to communicate the creative vision and the art style and identity of the brand, and I do that both in-house to the art department, but also the other departments of developers and game designers. We form this vision together and work together, but also out-house when we do collaboration with external partners, and that could be advertising, marketing, or we did merchandise at one point, and even a TV series. And part of my job is also to form and lead the art team. So hiring and training and finding the processes that will make the art department work together in the best way. So this is some of the different types of visuals that we do in the art department. I have here a character that we did for a Halloween event in the game, NPC. And we do bi-weekly pets that are animated, interactable, that the users can play with. It can be art directing new features, like here it's a mini game within the game itself. So figuring out how should the new features look and designing the logos and all the visuals for that. It could also be collaboration with external partners. As I said, this is a small advertising for our older game that we did for Disney Channel. And this is for a TV series that we did for YouTube with small 15 minutes episodes. It can also be bigger projects, like when we developed our sequel game, MoviestarPlanet 1, when I joined. It's a really, really old game. It was started in 2007-ish. It's a Flash game. So at one point when Flash was discontinued, we wanted to build the sequel in Unity, and also doing a lot to the game itself, also visual and style-wise, and this is just a lot of small tests on colors, details, outline, and forming like the look of the sequel. Yes. So, as I said, it's a content-driven game, and that means that every week we do a bundle of content that we call a theme. It can be all types of different ideas, and I would say maybe 70% of it is clothing, since it's a dress-up game, but it's also face parts, skin colors, animations, backgrounds, pets that the users can then play around with, and they can make their own avatar and dress up, and they can also actually make small movies and art books where they express different stories or opinions and share and comment on each other's content. Yes. Oh, and also actually part of my job is from going from the idea to the release on these content bundles. So that means actually both approving on what we are doing and seeing that the art style of it is uniform, because we have from 12 to 7 different artists making these, and of course we don't want to see that, but it's actually also the process of getting it uploaded and tested, and also collaboration with the programmers on getting these tools and pipelines to work in the best way. Yes. So our target audience. Yes, our core target audience is girls, age 14 to 16, and I bought this image of Miley Cyrus to kind of visualize how different a 14-year-old can really be. So when we say 14-year-olds, it's not just 40-year-olds, because somebody will be still in their childhood playing that way, and some would be like full-on teenagers and really want to provoke and explore their identity. And also the reality is that our users that play the game are actually from 9 years and up to their mid-20s, which make the age span really tricky to kind of cater to. But the thing that all of these users have in common, and what I think is really, really interesting in making working with that target audience, is that it's really the age or the period of life where they form their own opinions and identity. Because I think when you're a smaller child, you tend to look to your parents, then you get a bit older and maybe you look to your friends and copy their opinions. But at some point, whether it's when you are a tween or a teenager or even like a young adult, you really start to form your identity and your opinions. And what we can see that the kids are using, or the users, I shouldn't say kids, because sometimes it's not kids, but what they really use our game for is to play around with the identity, and that can be self-expression, their opinions and their looks, and playing around with like what they want to be and express. And one of my the things that I really want is to give them a really broad range of things that they can experiment with. So this is a screenshot from our game, and I think a core part of my job is not just how we make the assets or the graphics and how they should look, but also very much what we should make. And it is really about knowing the users. And for that, I use different tools. It's a lot with analyzing and adapting things that we see in real life, because always when we have some big events, the users also want to take that into the game and play around with that. So COVID, we of course made like all different kind of face masks, and we make things for Pride as well. So if something is happening, we also want to bring that in game. Also, I'm using internal data where we can see what the users are engaging with the most. We look at social media and just playing the game. And also, we are lucky to have this really huge community that we built over many, many years that we use. And we also invite some of the super users to close Discord, where we can talk with them and discuss and hear what they think about our game and our content. And then them being that age group also make them have lots of very loud opinions. So that is really fun. Yes, also I just a note on the using your user group is that I think it's always like a balance between what the user tells you that they want and your own understanding of the brand. There's a lot of content games out there, and I think what I just said earlier also is what is important to us or to me is that we have that range of diversity, and we want to make it playful and make a lot of option for self-expression. Yes. A little bit more on diversity. When you have a game where the user can make their own avatar and you want to give them creative freedom, but for instance, on the face parts up here, we have the option that they can not only choose face part, but they can also choose the size of it, and they can choose the placement of it, and they can rotate it as they like. But you need to have some ideas of how far you want to allow them to go, because in my experience, they will always tend to go as far as possible, and at some point, it doesn't look like your game anymore. I also read in a Roblox survey recently that diversity and designs being inclusive, like full range of body types, full range of skin types, and hair textures, is very important to 71% of the users. And one thing that we do, for instance, we have a male avatar, and then we have a female avatar, and then we have shop for both, but we allow the users to shop in the opposite gender of clothes, even though that sometimes it will look buggy because it's not fitted to that body type. We don't produce everything double, but we want to allow them to kind of cross-dress or use everything, and that's more important that sometimes like a few pixels of skin is showing. Also another thing I wanted to say about diversity, for me it's not only skin colors or where you are from or body types, it can even be extended to have also these fantasy elements, or you can have animal body parts on there and really try to push it to the why not? Why can't you have purple skin color or glass eyes or something? It is still interesting that 80–90% of our users look like this. But we still know that even though they look like this, it is very important for them that they have the option to look like this. And we want to, of course, give that to them. Yes. One slide on the free-to-play model. So our business model is that everybody can play this game for free. And then we have a third, fourth of the content that is gated with something we call VIP. And that means that you have to buy a pack or bundle to get access to that content. We don't have any features that are gated. So that means that we actually only make money out of the user being able to buy that last % of the content. And that also means that it's my job to figure out what of this content we should lock or gate, so you can only get it with hard currency. And for instance, this is all VIP clothing. We tend to do the more like wild or elaborate things that you can really see are different VIP, and this is a scrollable menu. You can have tons and tons of natural skin colors, but then all the really stand-outish are gated. And the same with pets. We have some pets from Halloween here, but we have pets in the game that can follow you around. You can interact with them, and these are also something that you can only purchase if you pay. Yes. So, the art team. Yeah, so part of my job is to build a team of artists, and we have shifting size, but an art department where we sit together of up to 12 people, where we both have like 2D illustrators, we have people with fashion backgrounds, we have animators and technical artists. And in that job, it's for me more of like a communication job to make sure everybody knows what we are doing and when we are doing it, but also why. Yes. So in the art department, we produce lots of different things for lots of different purposes. And I just wanted to have this slide to show you also how you can communicate visually differently depending on who the recipient are. So if we follow the horizontal line, up here it's all communication within the same or for the same people. So this top is the art department, and down here it's the same project. Does it make sense? Like the first over here, that's one of these weekly themes for Halloween. It's the same project. The first top one is just a quick mood board. This is how we often communicate with each other in the art department, because we have this really fast-paced work of line where we are producing a different bundle every 4th day. So this mood board would be enough. Then this is how we communicate or show it in-game with the finished graphics, and this is how we show it out of the game in our different marketing or social media. And this is the same here, where we have some login gifts, so something you get from logging in to the game every day. The top one is how we communicate to each other with just like a really quick sketch, some text or some reference pictures, and then in-game we need to also have some explanation of like what do you need to do to get this and what comes the day after, so there's some UI to it. And here we have a picture for marketing again. And it's the same way I work with external companies. This is for our animation series that we did with a company called Copenhagen Bombay. And this is a sketch and some reference pictures that their artist they're showing me to see if we are aligned on what we want to do and the colors. And then the picture that you can't really see is from the movie, a screenshot. And then this is something, again, some marketing material that we produced in-house. Speak so quickly. Yes, so I just wanted to say a little bit about how to keep a creative environment in a very fast-paced line of work, because we have to make these different types of content bundles and a lot of different projects, and everything have to be released. We have a Thursday release and we have a Friday release, and we have like 3 to 4 days to produce these amount. So yes, what do we do? So one thing that I changed when I became the art director is that something I call theme ownership. And that is that we have some brainstorms in the creative department, and then the person making, for instance, a theme idea, if that is that idea being chosen, then that artist is responsible for that idea from beginning till live in game. And that means that they actually have to put the project together, like what are we doing, which animations, how many clothing, how many backgrounds, and then they have to communicate it out to the team members, and then they all produce, they have to keep track, and then they have to give actual feedback to the other ones, looking through the whole bundle in the end and give art direction. So, and also then they have to upload it and test it. So we have these kind of small mini art director roles going on turns in the art team. And the good thing about that is that once it gives the artist a really a great sense of ownership, and it's much more fun for them to go to work every day. And they also learn a lot with giving feedback to their peers. But also, of course, we get a lot of more great ideas when we have a broad team contributing that before, where it was only the art director doing all the ideas and direction. Other thing that we are doing is that we are doing cross-team game jams and brainstorms. So we put artists, game developers, testers, game designers together in a room and have them do game jams or brainstorms. Could be for a specific art-related thing, but it could also be how can we approve a 7-day retention. And then the whole company go together and game jam about that. And I think this is also why I like to work at MoviestarPlanet, because it's always the idea that comes first, no matter where it comes from. And we try to encourage everybody to contribute and take ownership over our games. The last thing I want to mention for the artist, at least, is that we work in a Kanban method, where we put all the tasks in like a board, and then every day the artists come in and pick what they want to do that day. That means that we don't have somebody doing like all the backgrounds or all the logos, or an animator doing all the animations, but we encourage everybody to kind of take every kind of task. And of course, it is less time efficient, but it really does also, as you said, that it brings in that somebody can have a different viewpoint. If they're not only doing that all the time, they might have like a fresh take on it. And of course, we also do like training within the department. If somebody is not as skilled an animator, then we do small like pairing and training sessions as well. Yes. Okay, so my journey from when I were in school, I'm from the Danish Royal Academy, where I studied production design, which is essentially designing for film, TV, and games. I never really thought about games when I was in school because I just loved animation. So that was the only thing that I did. And this is kind of my first job, but it's not really a job that was my first internship. And I got recommended by my teacher that had former been teacher for the art director on this movie. So I was brought in as a background artist. I had, when I was going in school, made a lot of advertising in Photoshop to kind of have a student job and keep me in school with no loans. So I was pretty well versed in Photoshop, and I got in here where the backgrounds are made from like real photographs and drawings that are really adapted a lot. And then I have had a 6-month internship there. And after 3 months, I was just like, okay, I'm doing the backgrounds the same as everybody else here. The only difference is I'm not being paid. I mean, I know how to do this. So I went to my boss. I still had 3 months left. And I was like, I want to try compositing as well. Because it's an internship. Now I have given you this for 3 months. I also need to learn something. And compositing is in a movie where you essentially just take like all the different layers, put them together, you make the camera movement, you make the color grading, the light, there can be some effects like little particles or water, or it can be explosions. And we did that in After Effects, which I have been playing around with at home for a couple of weeks. And I just wanted to tell you all that it took me like 7 meetings with my boss and a full month of like nagging, like really nagging. And even also, which I will not recommend, but also like a Christmas party, drunk bar nagging. And then I finally was, okay, go to compositing. So I really accept the bar thing, would recommend. If you are in internship and they're just like letting you do something you know already, just like keep on insisting, because I learned then how to do compositing, which really helped me going forward. So this is my second job, actually my first real job after school. It is an animated feature movie as well by Atmo in collaboration with Centropa. And how I got it was that Centropa was producing this. My internship had been with Centropa, so I was just getting a call from a producer, probably looking at some list, like, okay, she can do this. So I moved to Stockholm, and the first job was actually they made the animation with like real live actors, but then they were cut out, and the proportions and colors are changed, and then all these body parts have to be cut out so it could be animated. So actually not a really interesting job, just to like take the background out, do the color, and cut all these characters in pieces so they can be animated. But I had that for 8-9 months, I think. And then I moved back to Denmark, and I got a job at Copenhagen Bombay, which is a Danish animation company, sadly not existing anymore. They did Pandaerne, where I again did backgrounds and compositing, which is a good combination to have because backgrounds will be typically in pre-production and compositing will be late or after production, so you can kind of have a longer contract that way. At least in movies where you are typically being hired, at least I was, per movie or per series. So that could be like 8 or 9 months for a big one, or it could be these small pilots and you could be hired for 2 weeks at a time. So I was also taking small jobs with other small companies, but always animation and always backgrounds and compositing. So then in the meantime, I had gotten my second child, and I was at maternity, and then one of my ex-classmates from school called me, and she was working at MoviestarPlanet. That time this was not existing, it was only this game, and I have never heard about it before. I never thought about games. But she wanted me to come in and take her maternity cover. And that is 10 years ago now. I have been here ever since. And I think, I've been there 10 years now. My first job was as a content creator, so actually just drawing in Animate these clothing that we're using. And after 2 years of that, I moved to being a game artist, where we do more the screens and the UI. And then after a few years with that, I became a product owner, which is the one that are responsible for the product. So all the content creation with the team that I already told you about, and then after some time, just like art director and manager on top of that. And yeah, I think one point that I often think about is that I don't especially think of myself as a game artist or art director within games. I've both done movies and games and advertising, and for me, I think of myself more as like a generalist, that you can either be a specialist or a generalist, and you don't have to limit yourself to only applying within one industry necessarily, especially not if you're more of a generalist. Yes. Yeah. So for my last 2 slides, I don't know where. No, it's fine with the time. For my last 2 slides, I wanted to say just some tips when you go out and apply for jobs, at least from my point of view. First, I have just like some general tips. I would say my number one key point is to learn to master your programs and tools, like the hard skills first. And you can, sometimes I go to some schools and they don't have a license for Blender or Adobe or whatever. And I think then you need to take the self-study approach and just really learn to use these tools, because a lot of companies will look at that first. But that being said, like one specific drawing tool to another is not the point, because if we're using Animate for some like tech history reason, and if you can draw in whatever else, you can also draw in Animate. Yes, and then also I would say get to know people and tell them what you want or what you can do. And also I think you can always write to people if you see somebody and like, oh, I would like to be doing what you are doing now. Would you have time for a coffee or look at my portfolio? I think most people would say yes. A lot of people said yes to me. And also, just looking at my own time in the industry, I actually never really gotten any job I applied for. It was always, then I had that internship, then I learned this person, then I learned that person, and then it was kind of rolling from there. But other jobs I've been offered was also like, oh, this company looks so great, can I come and see your new office and get a coffee? And then like the talk will go from there. So, yes, just do it. Then I want to say also, like from the start, I would recommend to take any job that you can within arts. Some of the first jobs are maybe not that interesting. Can be like just doing the same kind of skins, or just doing weapons, or just doing putting people in pieces for the animator. But some people that I see that was not really getting into business was because all the first job was not, no, it's not exactly what I want. No, it's not exactly that. But I have tried many times that when you are first in that company, you would often get allowed to try something more difficult, and then you can move when you're in. You can say, oh, can I try a go at blah, blah, blah. And they will probably say yes. Also, my last general point is to say yes to things that you might feel you are not 100% qualified to do, because you should not expect yourself to be perfect first time you're doing things. And companies will put applications out with like 30 things. That's just a wish list. If you think you can do some, or if somebody calls and be like, oh, we're missing some, can you step in? And you're like, I don't know if I can do it. Go in there and you will learn along the way. That's my tip. My last slide is just more some tips for applications, because I see a lot of applications. And again, to just say the same things. Learn to master your hard skills, your programs and tools, and put it up front together with a link for your portfolio. And just like a stupid small things, but sometimes people would put in links to portfolios that is a really, really long URL and it's not copy pastable. Just like small things like that, because we're really looking at a lot and it has to be easy. And also I would say show your enthusiasm. And be very specific. You can always tell if people did not play the game. You can tell in the application or at least in the interview if they didn't play the game, and then tell me why you want to have exactly this job. I will sometimes get oh, I would love to work at your company, and I'm a hard worker, and I'm a quick learner, but I'm still but why would you like to work here? Is it the target audience? It's the fashion, or is it I just love to just sit and draw 8 hours every day. That's my dream, and I love to nerd with the shadows, or whatever it is, put that in. And then the last tip that I have also used a lot in my career is just to start actually doing the job that you want to have. When I was at MoviestarPlanet and I really wanted to be content lead and we didn't have one and I thought we needed one, I just kind of started to doing the job and taking the responsibility. And then I think after a year or so, the title and it followed. And you can actually also do that in an application. If you start play the game and see what could I do better here, or what could I contribute with specifically, I would put that in already in the application, because a lot of applicants are what can I do for you? How can I help you? But if you can tell me already how you can help me, I have experience with fashion, or I have experience from this and this game with the target audience or with that program, or I would actually change this with your game because so and so. If I already read that, then it's you kind of already started doing the job and you are helping me instead of I have to figure out how. Yes? Questions?
So much for your talk, and thanks for sharing your tips. Do we have questions in the audience?
Hi, Regina.
Hi.
Thanks for your talk. My question is, when you took the role of the art director, how much was the balance between being the manager and also being an artist? Do you still draw?
Yes, that's a good question. No, I do not draw anything and have not done it since I became content lead and art director. But I sketch draw on top of other people's drawings, but I don't produce any of the art that we use, because first of all, I don't have time. And second of all, the artists that are drawing all day long, they can produce the assets much better than I can. I mean, if we're really in a hurry or we have sickness or whatever, I can draw, but I would rather pick uploading or testing or something else so I can fill in production. But normally, I spend my time. It's actually funny because when I first got the job of art directing, I was to my boss I don't feel like I'm producing anything. I'm not doing anything. I mean, before I was producing, and now I feel like I'm not doing anything. And he said, if you are enabling 12 people to do their job really good, then you're still doing something better than just making a poor asset. So I would say I spend my time in meetings, talking to the art team, giving feedback, having top view of sign off of some of the things, the newer things that we do, developing the visuals with the artist. If we need any new development, I will pick some and talk with them and sketch, and then they will produce some, and I will look at it and give them feedback. And feedback also includes drawing on their drawings, but that's more for communication, not for real artistry. Yeah.
Continue. I have more questions.
Yeah.
Regarding portfolio, because during studies, I assume people maybe here they study art or some game art. They might have art direction projects, and I personally have a few already art direction projects, and the opinions of how you present that work into the portfolio has been very contradictory. Because most of the time you don't really have a finished product, but there's a lot of feedback, as you mentioned, and like all the mood boarding and the sketching you do, but a lot of the final work is other artists' work. So how do you present that as a new person in the industry, building a portfolio? Because it's not clearly your game art, for example, but it's your art direction. And
I think it's a good question, and it also brings me to a really good point on portfolio in general, is that if you link to a game or a showreel or some clips from bigger project where there were more than one person involved, just write exactly what your role was under, and that goes for art direction or game design or 3D modeler or whatever, because if I see a link for a portfolio and it's a game or movie and I don't know exactly what you did, then I can't use it for anything. And I think it's perfectly fine to link to a project and write my role was art directing, and that includes sketching, feedback, mood boards, and then you can maybe include some of that or link to that as well.
Thank you. We can take more questions if we have them at the audience or online.
Was there anything that you found challenging coming from movies art directing to games art directing? They were like, oh, now I have to think in a little bit of a different way.
Yeah, I think actually the opposite. I really, really enjoyed coming to games. From different reasons, I felt that in movies there was a really strict hierarchy, and in games the hierarchy was really, really flat. And as you say, also in your work, you don't mind if a junior is giving feedback to a senior. We have that same culture. And also if an artist is giving feedback to a game designer or a programmer is giving me tips, we all welcome that. And I found that that was very different in movies. I don't know if it had changed, but I had some conflict, even being just enthusiastic and going through animator aisle and being like, wow! And then the director is like, you don't give feedback to you're not the. So that was one of the things that I really enjoyed working in the game industry. And the other thing is that with movies, you spend maybe a year creating your product, and in the end you maybe have some screenings, and then you get some feedback, but that is more maybe we have 2 different endings, or how censored should the movie be, so it's pretty final. And then it's out, and then you get the feedback, but then you're on to a different movie. But with this online game, at least, you have very direct contact with your target audience, which I think is super, super fun. It's a super fun target audience, the young people, because they will just tell you whatever, their opinions in a really direct way. And it's just fun to work with. We have like now this is also a very different game, but we have like a process from idea to live that can be a week. And that means we can really react to what our users are saying or wishing, or things that is happening, which also I just like to do. So I actually felt that it was, Also, I didn't have to have that whole like getting hired for 3 months and then getting hired for 6 months and then getting hired for 3 weeks. It's also nice to have colleagues and trying out different things in the same company and developing, I think.
Thank you. We still have time for questions. While you're yes.
This is super interesting, and I was thinking one particular thing is that how do you deal with designing for an audience that you're not a part of, or at least not a part of anymore? So do you find your inner something, or do you do certain things to kind of keep in touch with like that audience?
Well, I think that you should actually never, it's maybe a controversial opinion, but I think you should actually never just design for yourself or for your own kids, because that will make it way too narrow. So the things that I do is just talking with the users on our Discord, looking into what's happening on the music scene and in movies and in the world, but also really just playing the game a lot and just observing what they are talking about, what they are into, and then also we keep a lot of stats. So we have a lot of, we have a department just pulling what do they buy, what content do they like, which part of the game do they engage with more, and yeah, that also gives a lot. And then the artists also tend to be young people. And actually, it was funny because there was a question before with what if you take education later and then you get to be a bit older. And I actually really want to hire like a diverse group of artists. And it can be tricky because we tend to get applications for people, mostly women in the early 20s. Maybe they are more into drawing a lot of clothing. So I would definitely think it was a plus to get someone older or male, just to have that diversity within the art team. So I don't think that you have to be your user to be able to understand them. You just need to spend a lot of time researching, looking at data, and also we do focus groups where we bring kids, tweens, in and have them play game and try to talk with them in the right way, not to kind of, yeah, that's a whole art form, doing focus groups and getting viewpoints out of kids that are not kind of placed in them.
Great. Do we have any more questions?
Do you find that you struggle at all with burnout working on the same project more or less indefinitely? Do you have any tips for working through burnout?
Well, I think actually, I've done so many different things. Like when I came, that was a completely different game. And then I was in different roles. Just that's, I think I've been the art director and manager for maybe 3 years now, and that's a whole new skill set to learn. So I would say no, but I have sometimes also, I think it's important to just like re-educate yourself or to go to other, do things that you don't normally do so much, like giving this talk, for instance, is something that keeps me not burnt out, but also just the target audience or that age group, they are always like developing, so it's live, but it's not the same because we need to, you can't be doing something for teenagers and then be like old or boring or last year. You have to keep on like developing all the time. So I still think it's fun and interesting. I have the talk sometimes with the artist, because if you are only drawing one type of assets, of course, like day out, day in, it can be for some people, not so interesting, but then we have the movie project, then we have advertising, then we have new features that are coming out, or we have events. So we have so many different types of things that you can do and want to like build on the games. We also had a third game, a 3D game, and maybe the plan is also to make more in the future. So there's lots of interesting things still for me to do here.
We have time for one more question.
You mentioned that you have like a weekly production, or like you have new features weekly. So could you maybe describe how is the like a production pipeline through this week, and how like you need to release things every week, but how long does it actually take?
Yeah. So we tend to work like 2-3 weeks in advance. So it works so that the art team, they have different ideas for the week. This is not like the only thing that we're doing, but for this weekly bundle of content. So they have ideas, and then me and another person picks the ideas and put it in the order in like the season. And then that person is now like the owner of the theme, so they will go in and do, actually we just use like spreadsheets. So they will do, this is the animations, and we need some clothing, and then we need we also have something we call consumables, that are things that they can, small animations they can interact with. So it can be a lot of different things, and that is actually the artists that are making that kind of bundle and color sheet and everything, and then they communicate it out. And they do that in half a day, a day's time. And now, when all the artists are really just been there for some time, I don't approve of that or look at it. They're just running with it, so they will communicate it out to the rest of the team. And then everybody will just go in the morning and be like, oh, I'm doing 3 animations today and a top. And then for 3 days, approximately, we are producing all of the assets, or the artists are drawing them. And then the owner of the theme will go in and look everything through. And then they will give feedback if they have any corrections. And then when they're like signed off, and also now I'm not looking at that at all, only if some of them have some disagreements, or they're like, I'm not sure about this, then they will come and ask me, and I can make the decision. And then we have a upload pipeline where we build our own Unity tools, and then the owner will just take all the art and put it in the tools and have them uploaded it, and they have to have names, and they need to make marketing images, and that is around a day of work. And then we test it, and also we have some testers that test it when they are live. So that is kind of the, and then we start over with a new owner, and then we have some other projects on the side as well that can be all types of things. Was that answer?
Awesome. Thank you so much. And thanks again for your talk.